Good news, everyone. I was talking about Hera just yesterday and how some things with her really aren't working the way they should be and how that could be addressed. And today we already have someone addressing our worries with Hera. Titan Ajax has made a developer update about Hera, and he talks about various points that people in the community have brought up about her and how some things maybe didn't work out as planned. So we're going to look into that, we're going to talk about it a little bit, and obviously I'm going to tell you what Ajax told us here. Developer update, Hera design and balance. We specifically intended to avoid an OP release with Hera. It seems we succeeded, but we went too far and she is clearly undertuned. So based on this, we can already see that it's probably not just the feedback that we're giving, but also her performance in games that will indicate that to them, because otherwise I don't think Ajax would be making the statement. Internal testing can only get you so much information. The live game has a huge amount of players and skill levels, so we always learn much more after launch. We have learned a lot already and want to share our thoughts and process with the community. Hera being undertuned has a series of effects. One of these effects is that the overall desirability of her kit and playstyle comes into question. The SMITE design team feels strongly that Hera has an interesting, satisfying, and thematically cohesive kit. But a lot of that becomes lost when the kit feels weak. Now the interesting thing is that here they state that the kit is satisfying, and later on they kind of state that they want to make the kit more satisfying. Just taking this away a little bit, so I'm not quite sure which angle the team has exactly here, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter because they are changing things anyways. Hera has an active playstyle requiring her to weave in and out of the fight constantly, throwing out attacks and evading damage. Argus complements this playstyle because he requires management to maximize his potential. Her battle mage goals feel like they were met, but there are definitely ways to improve her. Hera's focus going forward will be her control. As a divine leader, she has influence over others. We will be looking to buff parts of her kit that align with the theme, while also adding a few damage increases to bring her in line with other mages. This again is also interesting because control is something that Hera already has to some degree at least. She doesn't have control that sets up a 1, which is the big issue, but she has control through her 2 and through her ultimate as well. So I'm surprised that this is what's going to be the big focus, but then again, what we'll see later are also very different aspects that don't have anything to do with control. Player feedback has shown Hera needs more to be an attractive pick. Her control elements can help remedy this problem. Polymorph is a very strong team fight ability that can completely swing a fight, and on a much lower cooldown than similar abilities. We will continue to adjust this ability to make sure it feels like a unique strength Hera brings to a team. We also expect players to find some very unique map optimization strategies with Argus. Sieging towers objectives in unique ways has a high potential in pro games. Even if Argus dies quickly, he could absorb enough attacks to finish off a Phoenix safely or pick an enemy guard. I will say on this particular part here is that so far Argus can definitely not do that. If he gets slightly changed stats, that may change a little bit obviously, but so far Argus tower tanking even way into late game isn't that great, and Argus and Hera both don't have much structure damage, so Hera as a split pusher at this point is definitely not going to happen, but obviously as a secondary tank for a Phoenix with someone else, it's a great tool. There are a few suggestions floating around that we will not be as excited to explore. 1. Letting Hera reposition guards or polymorphed guards. This has a very high frustration and abuse potential, especially when Hera is fighting near her own base or towers. So the idea here was, if you polymorph a target with a 2, then you can knock them back with a swing of your 1, or the cone in the front area. I think there is a point to this. It makes sense that obviously it would make her a lot less prone to direct attacks because she could push many assassins away, for example. Yet at the same time, I think it also depends on how much of a knockback she would get. If the knockback was not the same as with minions and just a shorter distance knockback, it really wouldn't be all that bad. But again, I'm fine with this as long as she gets other things to make up for that. At the end of the day, the knockback combo wouldn't even be used that often because you really have to run into the enemy for it, or they have to run into you. Second point, adding additional effects on her one's center area. This creates a very high variance scenario, making Hera feel weak most of the time with rare spikes of high power. We want to keep the multi-hit effect on this ability low to keep Hera consistent. I can kind of see that. I can see why it would have a more drastic impact, but then again, I also feel like it would reward hitting both fists more, which I think is nice. I think there is a merit to having a rewarding part to something that is hard to hit. But at the end of the day, keeping her kit more consistent and not as spiky in terms of power and damage is something I am okay with. And even when it comes to special effects, I'd rather have more CC on other abilities that set up the one than giving the one itself more CC that can't really be used for anything else after. There are a few things we would like to adjust in her kit based on the above reasoning. Adjusting her passive to affect more of her kit and complement her Battle Mage playstyle. That I absolutely agree with, because right now her passive is basically half Argus and lower Argus cooldown. Second, making Royal Assault and Polymorph feel more satisfying to hit. This is especially important for Royal Assault, and this is what I mentioned above. I think this part does not feel satisfying just yet. Number 3, buffing Divine Shroud as a self-protection ability. I think it should have some more logic to it. It doesn't need big buffs, but it should just be something that feels more like it belongs on a mage, or something that gives you a little bit more mobility as an escape or anything like that. And then as the last point here, a series of quality of life changes to Argus and increasing his health and protections. And by quality of life changes, I hope there's going to be a lot of AI stuff in there, and we have some below. This may look like a long list, but based on the initial data and feedback, this should be a safe amount of changes without overbuffing her. Many of these are more quality of life focused, with less direct impacts on her damage and other performance metrics. We want to make sure we focus first on Hera feeling good to play as and against, with performance as a secondary concern. We look forward to hearing your feedback about Smite's newest goddess, and many thanks to those who have sparked up constructive discussions in the community already. Here are our current final proposed adjustments for Hera in patch 5.20, so the next big patch, with the note that these are subject to change. These are not the final changes, but these are the ones that are planned so far, and I guess HERA'S wants to, or Titan wants to hear a little bit of the feedback from the community for these changes as well before they go through with them. Before we go through all of them in detail, I'd like to quickly mention that there are a lot of changes. And I honestly think if all of these go through like this, Hera is probably going to end up towards the stronger side. I don't want to say she is going to be OP then, but I think she's going to be a lot stronger than she is right now, potentially too strong. The individual changes, however, sound very good. Commanding Presence. Each time Royal Assault and Polymorph deal damage to a god, they reduce the cooldown of Divine Shroud by 0.33 seconds. Royal Assault. Increased base damage from 75 to 255 to 80 to 280. That alone will make that ability a fair bit more rewarding. Polymorph. Polymorph's enemies are now slowed by 20%. This would set up Royal Assault way better and make that part way more impactful. Divine Shroud. Fixed in-game description states that she's getting more shield than she really is. Also increase the shield health from 40 to 200 plus 15 per level to 50 to 250 plus 20 per level. Maximum increase from 500 HP to 600 HP. A little bit more survivability this way, which I think is also good. Argus the Defender. Increased deploy range from 55 to 65 units. Nice, because she has to run in pretty close at the moment. Increased maximum leash range from 85 to 125. Very important, so he doesn't run back after chasing an enemy like randomly. It's super annoying. Increased protections gained from 15 to 35 physical protections and 15 magical protections to 25 to 45 of both protections. So that is going to have a little bit of an impact, especially on the magical side. It definitely will. Increased Argus health from 700 to 3000 to 700 to 3500. I think the top end of the 3000 is actually not that bad, especially with a little bit more protection. I'd rather see some more health on the lower end, because he just looks tanky and isn't tanky all the game. Increased crash landing damage scaling from 35% to 55% of your magical power. A little bit of scaling here as well, a little bit extra damage that way, a little bit more rewarding for a damage Hera. Argus attack, increased target range from 65 units to 80 units. Also way better so you can actually target enemies without being too close to them. Argus' second attack in hit chain reduced self-movement penalty on Argus Ground Slam windup from 50 to 35%, so you can actually land that sometimes, and increase the slow duration from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. So these changes, in my opinion, are very good and will definitely help her. I have some things to add that I would like to see. I would like to see some slight wind-up changes and speed changes on the projectiles of the 1 and the 2, because right now they feel very slow and very telegraphed. And I don't think they need to be as punishing. I've learned to play around with the 2 and hit it relatively reliably, but that's only a matter of time until people figure out how to avoid this ability better, and then it's useless all over again, basically. Well, not useless, it's still a very strong ability, but you get the point. Also, right now, the 3 and Argus basic attacks are unaffected by Bombast and Lono's damage decrease. And I'm not sure if that should stay if she gets multiple buffs, because that would mean these items become absolutely core on her and are gonna make her very, very strong when the rest of the kit is solid. And you basically have to balance the character around these items at that point. So I'm not sure if that's worth it, especially if the cooldown of the 3 gets reduced and the basic attacks hit more reliably. And then there's also the point of Argus target prioritization. I think a lot of this will fix itself to some degree through the range changes, but really he still has very strange aggro mechanics, and I think he should prioritize guards more and that kind of stuff. And that would be really good to have soon, because it's so frustrating when you see an enemy running away with 200 health and Argus is chasing them, just constantly walking at the same speed, and then suddenly he just drifts away. It's just weird. Again, if these changes are added, I don't think all the others should go through, because it might be a little bit too much for one patch, and we should see how Hera develops slowly. Overall, I am super glad that HERA'S addressed this so quickly, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Hera will change with the next patch and how she will feel after that. Let me know your opinion down below, and maybe HERA sees some of it as well, so might be worth dropping it towards Ajax as well. I will link the thread as well and all that kind of stuff. And just quickly before I go, I made a poll because I want to know what game mode you guys play the most, and I posted that here on YouTube on the community page. I'm going to link that down below as well. You would really help me out if you filled that out, and it might change future content a little bit and all that kind of stuff, so please do. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was interesting and insightful. If you're new to the channel, feel free to click the sub button with the bell, it really helps me out. And other than that, see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out.